Hey everyone, just thought I'd jump in here with a new question. This is a good one. So I thought I'd make a video of answering it. So Brian asks, what key is this in? A friend of mine is playing C major to E flat minor to F sharp minor to B flat minor, then back to C major. What key is that in? How do I figure this out? Is there a trick for this? Well, let's answer that last part first. There's not really a trick. There's a method I would do to figure it out. So I'm going to focus on how do we figure this out? And then hopefully that will lead us to the answer of what key is he in. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write out the notes to all of these chords. So we have C major to E flat minor. So I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to write it out. So C major. Now remember, I don't have any key signature on here right now, so I'm just going to have to manually put in all the accidentals for the notes. There are none in C major, so that's just fine. The next chord is E flat minor. So that's going to be an E flat, a G, and a B flat, right? Because E flat to G is a major third and G to B flat is a minor third. So that makes up a major triad, and we want minor. So we need a G flat. So there we go. So now we have an E flat minor. So the one thing I can tell right now is that we are not in C major, definitely not in C major. But let's just keep going and get these all in here. F sharp minor. Okay, now one thing that I'm going to do here that's going to make this a little bit easier is I'm not going to call this chord F sharp minor just because I want to stick to either flats or sharps for this whole thing. So I'm going to call this a G flat minor chord, right? It'll be all the same notes, they'll just all be spelled with flats. And that's only because we're calling this an E flat minor and this a B flat minor, so let's call this a G flat minor so that we stick to flats for the whole thing. Okay, so G flat minor. So G flat, so it's minor, so I need a minor third from G flat, which is going to be, this is actually a really interesting one. It's actually going to be what's called a B double flat. Now this is like, if this is making your head explode, what that means is that it's flat by a whole step and not flat by a half step. Why is that? It's because this key of G flat, which this chord is the tonic of, has a ton of accidentals. So let's actually do this. Just to make this less gnarly, let's pretend this is a major chord for a minute. And let's just do a G flat, B flat, D flat. Okay, we'll make that minor in the end. So just hold on to that one for a minute. Our last chord is B flat minor. So we have B flat, D, F. Okay, so now we have our chord progression laid out, mostly. Still need to make that one minor, but let's check it out. I want to just want to turn the volume up a little bit here. Tempo down, way down so that I can hear this nice and good. All right, let's hear this thing. Okay, I can tell you the answer just by looking at this, but the answer is not something we've covered yet in this class. It's something we are going to cover in a future class, but this doesn't line up to be in any keys very easily. So check this out. Let's try to get it into a key. So what I want to do is see if I can make these chords work in the diatonic chord progression of any particular key. I don't think I'm going to be able to, but so if we were in C major, would all of this work? Now, without even thinking about it, I can say no, because we've got a ton of flats. and there are no flats in C major. So let's throw C major out. And in fact, one of the things that I can tell that's going to cause me problems right now is that this chord has an E natural and this has an E flat. So that means there's E naturals and E flats in it, which makes it a little ugly. But that's okay. Let's hold on to that for a minute. Let's look at this. So if we were in the key of E flat, what would our key signature be? Key signature of E flat looks like this. Let's put one right there. So we have B flat, E flat, and A flat. So B flat, and E flat, that's good, but we don't have a G flat. And if I look forward, we also don't have a D flat. But if I could find one that had a D flat and a G flat in it, that might be a good answer. Let's try this one. This is the key of D flat major. And this one has E flat in it. It has G flat in it. There's our G flat. It has B flat in it. Here's G, B. It has D flat in it. G and B. Good. So aside from the C major chord, the C major chord doesn't work because of the E natural and the G natural actually. But aside from that chord, this could work in D flat major. However, D flat major would be a weird key because we don't have an actual D flat major in here. So what would be the alternative? It would be B flat minor, same key signature, right? So this would be the tonic chord, B flat minor. So if we were in B flat minor, this would be our 1 chord. This would be our 6 chord. This would be our 4 chord. And this would be, we could call the C major in the key of B flat, it would be some kind of 2 chord, because it'd go B flat C. It would be a major 2, so it would be out of key, but it would be reasonable. I've seen that before. So the closest possible key that we could call this would be B flat minor. However, I'm going to give you one more reason that I don't think it's B flat minor. If you played this chord progression and stopped on this chord, does that feel like home? I don't really think it does. I don't think any of these chords really feel like home because, jumping back to what I said a minute ago, this is using something we didn't really look at before. And what we're going to call this is a sequence. A sequence is when chords kind of move by a pattern that doesn't work in a key. And in this case, I would call this a minor third sequence because check it out. We have, let's just look at the roots. In fact, I'm going to get rid of all notes except the roots. Okay, now we're just looking at the roots. How are they related to each other? That's a minor third apart. That's a minor third apart. E flat to G flat. G to B is a G flat to B flat is a major third apart. So it's slightly different, but they're all related by thirds, either major or minor. So this is a chord progression that's just kind of stepping up in thirds. And the reason it has the characteristic sound that it has is because, check this out. If we took all the roots and spelled them as their own chord, what kind of chord do we have? We have a diminished chord. Technically, it's called a half diminished chord, but it's a diminished chord nonetheless. So a diminished chord, remember, is a cycle of thirds. So what you're doing in this chord progression, my friend, Brian, is you're outlining an augmented chord, a C augmented chord, by building triads on all of the notes of the chord. And it makes a kind of characteristic sound. It makes kind of an interesting sound. It's a little spooky, a little dark, but it's cool. And people use it a lot. I actually use that technique a lot. As a transition, I use it. I don't know if I'd use it as a chord progression, but it could be a really cool chord progression. Depends on your song, I guess. So, okay, so to answer the question, what key is it in? I would say it's kind of in B flat minor, but the real answer is that it's a sequence, and I would need to look at the rest of the song to know if it's based on any particular key. But it's not really in any key, and that's totally okay. We encounter this all the time. It sounds cool, so you should use it. Don't not use it because it's hard to explain. But in terms of what key it's in, maybe kind of B flat minor, but more importantly, it's a stepwise sequence of thirds. How would I figure this out? I think we just did it. This is a really tricky one to figure out because you would have never known that sequence of thirds. And is there a trick for this? I guess I would say there kind of is a trick for this particular chord progression, and it's to look at the sequence kind of thing. We'll talk more about sequences in a future class, I promise, because they are extremely important. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Tricky chord progression. See you later.